if not, there must be a consistent awareness of our past in order for us to determine the way forward. That is not embraced by a lot of people. Some people would like to forget the past. And although there are some things that you might want to erase out of the past or ignore because of the ignorance that prevailed at the time, still, it is important for us to have that awareness to be able to determine where we stand. With that said, the man who is responsible for SIPS, and let him break that down for you, but it has a lot to do with an educational system that will help us to understand all aspects of knowledge when it comes to our existence here on St.Maarten. Often you will hear him make, because of his governmental experience, you'll hear him make his comments more related to that, but today SIPS is busy with something in the community, and if you have no knowledge of what SIPS is, well, let me say to Dr. Julio Romney, who is here with me for today, Dr. Romney, good morning to you, and of course, you would be sharing lots of information about this project that you're working on, but I think what would be appreciated by my audience, I'm sure, is them understanding the importance of this, because there's a narrative where some people want to discard completely the past, and it's important for us to know where we're at, where we came from, so that we'll be able to chart the course forward. So with that said, let me thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us what SIPS is busy with. From time to time you have all these projects, so good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Wendell, and good morning to you listeners. And as you know, it's always a pleasure to come and sit with you because we have some important discussions, so to speak.
Can I say robust?
There you go. That's a more appropriate word.
Robust. Intriguing because it has a lot to do with how it affects the citizens.
The citizens. Yeah. And so this is a good terminology to use there. Robust discussions. And as you know, SIPS is embarking on another.
But I think you need to break that down for our listening audience so they can understand more. Get their mind around what the institution is doing.
SIPS. Okay. Basically, SIPS is St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Studies.
Okay, that's very different than SIPS because, because you're dealing with primarily acronyms.
Yeah, we tend to just go along and talk about acronym and don't detail exactly what it's about.
Yes.
And like I said, St.Maarten Institute of Public Policy Studies. Yeah. And SIPS came about because I saw the need to cultivate a more informed St.Maarten society or across St.Maarten. And that was motivated basically on my own personal experience. I see there was that lack of information being provided in the community.
Would you say that you were able to identify that we are just going along for going along's sake and ignoring certain basic things that would really anchor us?
Precisely.
Down,
yeah, precisely.
And settle us in.
And settle us in.
To see where we're at, what we're all about, as we determine where we're going.
Where we're going. And like you said that, and that's important. Okay, an informed society is your best society. Okay. We cannot function within our society unless we are well informed.
Yeah.
We must be able to, and I hate to use that term, but we must be able to address our literacy, person's understanding, and this affects us across the island. Mm-hmm. See, it affects you in terms of governing, okay? And we see we're always in that mode. We're looking for what? Effective governing. So if we don't understand and have the necessary knowledge, then we can't. There's much talk today about St.Maarten's capacity, to use that term that they often use.
Yeah.
Okay. So our
capacity in relation to human resources.
Human resources.
Yes, people.
Okay. Our ability to understand, to comprehend, to formulate, in order to do what? To effectively implement a program for our own development administration, for our own survival.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is important. We must have that educational background. Like I said, SIPs, that was motivated from my personal experience, because there's always someone out there want to, in other words, identify for you. They want to define who you are. And I think it's important that St. Maarten and itself define who St. Maarten is. And if we don't have an educated society, then we cannot effectively do that.
But how do you correlate that, though, with this project that you are about to embark on? And the reason why I think this is interesting, that we would love the listening audience to, just for a moment, sit back and listen carefully to what is being discussed and see how it connects with us today and the awareness, how it relates to our literacy of our present status, and probably no fault of us of being or coming from a slavery past, so to speak, which a lot of people would advocate to forget. But you still think that there is a certain amount of knowledge that has been ripped away from today's society that will do them well.
I honestly, for lack of a term here again, I would honestly believe that. One must understand and realize is where you come from in order to get where you want to get.
To go, yeah.
So if you don't know your foundation, there's no way that you can build that house, so to speak. If you don't have that foundation,
Yeah.
there's no way then you can build that strong house. And in keeping with
So it's those people who would want to advocate for getting that, are they doing a disservice, you think?
total disservice. And not only those who advocate for getting, but those who advocate looking at it in
As
a
if it
negative
nev-
light, so to speak.
Or as if it never existed.
It never existed, and they're looking at it from the negative aspect in terms of using that as a foundation to move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is the essence of this.
Using it
project,
as a foundation
to move forward.
to move forward.
So what you can do, you don't make the same mistakes you make back then,
Yeah.
or you won't be subjected
Yeah.
to those ills
Yeah.
of the past. Okay? And that was one of the objective of our thing. So what we're planning
Yes.
is a discussion, okay, or hosting a dialogue discussion, okay, on the effect, legacy, and continuing impact of slavery past on our present. We cannot move forward if we don't realize the impact that is placed on us. Knowing the impact, we can then what?
Navigate.
Formulate policies, etc., etc., to move forward. Okay? We can then look at the atonement that is offered to us, if I could put it that way. Okay? Because it's important. You can't move forward unless you have atonement, unless you come to some understanding that what? We are going to right the wrong, so to speak.
So who are you planning to engage in these type of discussions?
Okay. Good. Like I said, what is the whole project, the focus that is that dialogue, awareness and dialogue. We are focusing on the total community of St. Maarten, because the full community needs to be aware, needs to understand, and needs to focus on that atonement to move forward. But one of the key aspects of here would be what? The secondary school students.
Oh,
So
you're using secondary school students for this type of
For this
discussion?
in fact, the project has basically three phases. The first phase would be a comprehensive desk research on our enslavement sites, those things that was part of the enslavement. Okay? We're looking at, I guess you could look at plantations.
Yeah.
You're looking at the Great St.Maarten, effective. We're looking at the Odyssey to freedom. So so in order to understand it, we must realize, okay, what these transactions, if you want to call them that, those incidents, that part of enslavement. So we must have a accurate dealing exactly what these things were, what was part of the plantations, where the slaves came from, how many of them were here, what effect that it had on our society moving forward.
Do you have any instructions as to what you would say to these panelists, especially the younger ones who would first be involved in these research projects? Do you ask them to keep their mind clear of anything, or it is just simply an awareness to what what existed way before you who are now here?
Well, in all cases there, you ask a person to come in with an open mind. Be objective as opposed to be subjective. Because that's the only way you can learn. You can't come in with a conclusion, so to speak.
Yeah.
You must come with an open mind.
I mentioned that, Mr. Romney, because I'm aware that there are existing influences that these people might have had to deal with that can be on the negative side of why are we concerned with the past enslavement.
We are quite aware of that. The institution is quite aware of that. And so we're going to do our best to ask the community, not only the community, to come with an open mind and see it for what it is. Don't come with a predetermined closed mind. Come with an open mind. And more importantly, look at the data. Look at the literature. Don't let someone objective or subjective feelings come into play. No. Look at what the data says, look at the history, and from then you formulate. For that reason, we are asking, or that part of the second phase is we are approaching all of the secondary schools in St.Maarten, asking them to invite students to be part of this field trip, enslavement site field trip.
Oh, so you're setting up a field trip as part of the project.
Yeah. And that is scheduled for the 28th, so next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
Okay. And we're going to take the students to a learning-based field trip. And when I say that, the based field trip is so they can see. They might have learned these different things in social studies or history or what have you in school. So now they can see, they can bring that connection between what they learned and the actual site, looking at the ruins. And we have a field trip coordinator, okay, and we have a field trip guide that will then give them narratives about the different sites. Okay. For instance, we might go to Golden Rock Estate. That was one of the premier plantations on St.Maarten.
Golden Rock Estate.
Yeah, that's Emilia Wilson.
Okay.
Place, okay. And the Madam Estate there too, also. The number of them. We are also looking at the Diamond Estate. And if we remember
that's on the border.
That's on the border. Okay. And that was one of the key things or key sites when the French side abolished slavery.
Yes.
So I think it's about 26 slaves from the Diamond Estate used that track for freedom and went over to the French side. And once you get over to the French side, they became free slaves. And so we're going to give a complete narrative of that thing. So this is the kind of learning experience that these school children would have. And we choose that because, like I said, the adults, the community, they are steadfast in what they believe. So we feel that we have to get and start educating from the younger folks. So then what? They can now educate the persons, the generation behind them. So therefore what? Our whole society would be more attuned or more have a better feeling to be educated, to speak from an informed position as opposed to hearsay position. Okay? And after the trip, that we're going to ask all the students that participated, okay, basically to tell us in an essay form, okay, what they learned from the field trip, okay, how the experience shape the field trip experience shape their understanding. And moreover, and this is the important part, they want them to give us their perspective on this history and how atonement by the Dutch would help us move forward. See, we're seeing over the years that the Dutch have been offering a number of different atonement approaches, if you want to call that. They talk about reparation. They talk about. They have put quite a bit.
Who have talked about reparations? Not the Dutch.
Well, yeah, they've spoken about it, yeah, but they don't say they're going to give you reparation in terms of monetary. But if we look at other issues or other things that could be considered reparation. Reparation is all about your righting the wrong, so to speak. Okay? Agreeing that, oh good, we have made that mistake. We are guilty, if you want to put it that way. Okay? And we are trying now to make things better. And you notice over the years, and they continue, the Dutch have been pouring quite a bit of money into that, in terms of making folks aware and looking at what they can do or what they can't do. Of course, there's much talk about reparation, person would want reparation in terms of financials. And that in itself is a different story, a longer story. And but there are other aspects of reparation coming out publicly. We've seen the public apology that they've made. And there are other little aspects that they're doing in order to, I guess, for atonement, so to speak.
So after all this, where do the learning exercise go? Because the participants, of course, after it is all done, it may have just been for them an experiencing of what existed during that time. And where do we go from there?
Well, where we go from there, okay, just step back. Once the students go on the field trip, write their paper, we are going to choose, and we have a panel that would review all these papers and choose 3 of the best papers, and those students would be awarded. And the key for that too, that these papers that the student write would then supplement the research study in order to what? To have that dialogue. We're going to have a public discussion. We'll have the general public, along with the students, come and we'll have a candid discussion. Here again, particularly talking about the legacy, okay, the effect, and what's the impact on our society today. And collectively, as as one community, we'll plot a way forward. So we can. So you're finding out that what we're trying to get is get the experience of the general community, so we get a better sense as what St.Maarten wants when we're looking at atonement, how we will feel best. to find that way forward. Because, like I said, we cannot move forward if we don't have that sort of some sort of an agreement. We haven't come to the second that in order to move forward, as part of that atonement, that we're looking that we should see A involved, B involved, C involved, a part of that atonement. Okay, one of the things that in our research that we're seeing that an important part of that atonement would be self-reliance, for us to become self-reliance.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to try our best. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because then it will sort of influence, and that's what we don't want it to influence what they feel should be the subject or part of that atonement, so to speak. Okay? It must come directly from the people. SIPs will guide. Okay? We have done a number of research and we have written several other papers on the subject matter. So we have a sense as to what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to be taking a close look at the CARICOM 10 points for reparation.
Would that be follow-up or part of the whole
That will be
exercise?
part of the discussion. That will be key points that would direct the dialogue, so to speak.
Are you limiting this just, and I hear you referring to students, which means that you're expecting the schools to participate by submitting one or two students
Yeah.
to be a part of this. Recently, I've had a discussion with some students, primarily from, I think, is the academy, who's supposed to be going on a UNESCO project, and they're supposed to be making a case for St.Maarten, and also wanting to use the Great Salt Pond, which is a historical site, as a heritage site. And no one knows if if they would achieve that, but they would be present among other countries that would presenting their culture and everything else in relation to whether or not, when we have made our case, our students then have made our case for our Great Salt Pond being as it is at this moment, because the state of it at this moment, it appears that it doesn't even exist, especially when you go along your everyday life, because all you see is mangroves. But there's an important historical site that also contributed to the past. All of this, well, I'm talking about the economy of the past. All of this would be part of what these students would be researching, because I think these students would probably come in handy, having spent some time already, researching this, but they have done most of it, whether it's from Google or the library or wherever. But you're talking about visiting these actual sites and having someone give brief lectures on what it was like way back when. So I'm asking if this could be ideal for some of these students to be part of this, because they have to present some historical facts about St.Maarten to this symposium that they will be attending.
Yeah, and I assume I'm not in detail of exactly I heard about it, but I haven't really studied it and got any details about it. But I said yes, this definitely can help. It'll help not only from that part, but it'll help from their independent thinking. You see, it'll help them to see things from a different light. For example, and that's what I said, the focus of this project is to bring awareness, for you to understand your cultural heritage. Unfortunately, when I was a secondary student, we were not given that information. And I've always used myself as an example because as a St. Maarten, I grew up in St. Maarten. I was part of that. For example, I lived in Phillipsburg. I frequently went to the Great Salt Pond. I walked the salt pond. At that time, there was still salt in the pond.
Mm-hmm.
I ate salt from that salt pond. Okay? I went after pond birds, catching pond birds. I mean, I was a part of that, but never knew it was called, or the right name was the Great Salt Pond, and its contribution to the world, as a matter of fact, because it was infamous in terms of salt. Okay, it was known internationally for producing of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Again, didn't know, had no clue. Been to Fort Amsterdam.
So who was responsible for teaching that? Isn't it the school system?
We now our education system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our education system. Been to Fort Amsterdam. Sat up on the different cannons of that view. Didn't know that was an important part of our, again, cultural heritage.
Nothing tell you even at
No.
that time that this
had
had
no-
to be important?
The system, this teaching was not there. Okay. The other would be the Madam Estate plantation.
Mm-hmm.
There was this house there. I've been all through that house as a youngster. Didn't know again that was part of our history.
And heritage.
Okay. Next to that, when I guess at that time, that was the ruin was gone from that, but the infamous sugar plantation,
Sugar mills.
sugar mill was
Yeah.
there. Okay. Golden Rock Estate, the Milo Estate. As a child, I've been all over that estate. I've been in the Emilio Wilson house. I've been all, like I said, all over. I mean, as a little boy, I mean, I was so, the grass was high, that high, that at times I could hide in the grass and no one will know that I'm there. I was part of that. I felt it. Didn't hear again.
So
Did
Emilio
not know.
Wilson Estate is, your correct name is Golden Rock.
Yeah.
See, I because
my-
I was trying to, in my mind, trying to figure out
My
Golden Rock.
heritage. Okay? My forefathers were part of that slave thing and were enslaved on the Golden Rock estate.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that. So what we're trying to do as an institution is to make that awareness,
Yeah. Okay.
okay, to help our folks understand. Many of the other islands around the Caribbean, they know their history.
Could
The
you?
objective of SIPS or St. Maarten Institute for Public Policy is what? Increase our awareness to formulate, to get to get us start thinking about our culture
I wonder.
and
If,
civic education, as you say.
Yeah.
I've always talked about.
I was wondering if, by any means, you could have gotten these classes that would submit a student to award some kind of credit for them to at least show, for it to show value for their input, and by extension they would be then informed of what the past for St. Maarten has been and is like, and that would probably make it more rewarding for them to be a part of, rather than just subject them to be part of this.
And that would have to be done to the school system. Okay, and I want to say again to what we're
But can
doing.
you suggest it in your act, in your requests
Well,
for participation?
we can, okay, at some point we can, and it's also intent.
Yes.
Okay, well, not our intent, but part of the project is to create a publication, and at some point a more extensive publication that we hope that the the schools would use as part of their social studies classes. Because if you're aware that there's no real publication that presents St. Martin's experience on our colonial slavery past. And if one aware that slavery, the first slavery basically was by the Spaniards. However, it became more known or had a more impact on the Dutch. But it started with the Spaniards.
Okay.
Only the Dutch and the French, I must say.
Okay, folks, just give you a heads up for those of you who are struggling to follow along because you might have started late with us, haven't been following along all the way. I'm here with Dr. Julio Romney, who is representing St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Studies, SIPS, and an awareness project about the slavery past of St.Maarten and how that could be useful awareness information for today's generation. And we'll talk a little bit with him further as to whether or not there would be participation from others other than just students when his project begins and his deliberations later on. So we'll talk.
Let me, if I may interject here, that the project is basically for the general public. It's for everyone in St. Maarten.
Yeah.
The community of St. Maarten.
But you want some schools?
We are chosen to do a little focus on the secondary schools.
Okay.
Because we feel that they form essential part of our community.
Okay.
And getting to them and get them to understand and trying to get them more involved, okay, in learning and understanding and formulating that culture would be great. But at the end of the day, it's a community. It's a dialogue for the community of St. Maarten. And those students will be part, and not only a part, but essential part of that.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at the effect, the legacy, and the impact that's still having on us today.
Okay. We'll take a break, folks. This is People's Voice. We'll come right back right after we take a short break. And welcome back to our discussion. I'm here with Dr. Julio Romney, who is Romney, that is. Make sure I got that right. He's here on behalf of SIPS. SIPS is the St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Studies. And he's here to talk about an upcoming project that he's spearheading. The Institute is spearheading to bring more awareness of the past of St. Maarten. And when I say that, Mr. Romney, I have to admit that in my head, there are quite some people who think they don't even need to visit these sites or even become more aware because they think they know it already. Am I missing something, or do you feel as well that exists for some people who think this is irrelevant?
And that's very much that's not irrelevant, and that's very much on the minds of a great number of persons, and because they said, well, yeah, it was a crime against humanity, and they treat us wrongly, what have you. And we understand that. You see? And as a people, as a society, we must come to realization that has been, but it has been. Let us move on. The person said, what is that going to benefit me? It's going to benefit you in every aspect of the world. We cannot move forward without realizing the past. And then we can move forward. There are much persons today which said, okay, we want to move on from quote unquote the kingdom. We want to move on from the Dutch. Okay. And I would say, great. St. Maarten Institute of Public Policy is right there with you. However, we're going to do it in a structural manner. We're going to find the most effective pathway. First, by educating ourselves. We must educate ourselves of what have actually happened. Only then can you put into place public policies and map a roadway forward. That's what you're saying. Let us stop thinking, well, they did us wrong, so let us kill them, so to speak, if you want to put it that way. Okay? Let us do it in a structural manner. And so we, St. Maarten, could define St. Maarten. If we want to go independent, if we want to get away from the kingdom, or if we want to put it, the Dutch, so to speak, then we must understand where we are and then formulate a pathway forward. That's all we're saying. So therefore, it's important that you understand these things. You understand what enslavement meant to, where our people came from. Okay, and that's another project that we're thinking about. Okay, because one of the key things of that 10-point thing of CARICOM is to help the enslaved and their enslaved ancestors find out where they came from, so they could identity, so you know who you are. So that's a project that we're thinking about, that we'll come up and try to assess to help persons, St. Maarten slaves, find out their lineage, so to speak, where you came from, whether what part of the southern east, I think it's the eastern part of Africa, or the southern part of Africa, and how you got here. Not how we got here, but how the ancestors got here. So, on a good day, if you choose to go back, if you want to go back home, so to speak, then you can do that, and you'll have a good roadmap as to where you came from, your lineage, your ancestors, and how you got here. Back to the thing of St. Maarten. So we're trying to educate folks of that. So if we want to move forward, get away from quote unquote the Dutch or what have you, atonement is the place. If you want to have a good relationship or to get out and to move forward, you have to address the ills. And when I say address, I mean educating yourself, so you won't find yourself back in that, in that situation. So we're saying, good. Let us look at what the effect. What effect did it have on us?
Some
the legacy.
Some say that the effect is we are still bearing out the effects in our today lives of the slavery past that our ancestors, because we didn't experience that. We are learning that our forefathers experienced, that had the experience of being slaves. But you're saying the knowledge of what existed back then, what they were going through, and some of these plantations that existed, and what the plantation life is all about. Is it so that some of that experience still, we are bearing out some of that even in our today life?
Yeah. So that's the whole project is all about, looking at those and seeing what impact it has on us today. Okay. And then what? We'd address the impact that we have today. So, again, we can throw that yoke off of us. We can move forward in the most efficient manner. Okay? We can then be more self-reliant and get away.
doing this any other way would be considered ignorance? No, I'm asking this because the truth is, making that connection, some people would see that as useless. You understand? Yeah, let me take it. Okay, I think there's a call online, so let's see if we can get this caller to make a contribution in terms of their ideas. Yes, caller, good morning. Hello? Okay, we'll try to work that out. I believe if there is a contribution that you'd like to make, I'm sure Dr. Romney certainly don't mind entertaining the idea.
Yeah. So go again. We would then know the impact it having on us today. So then what we can address that impact. Okay. And the focus of that and addressing that is mean what? Becoming more
Reliant.
That's to me. That's the total objective. And we'll find ways and means of becoming more self-reliant. Not only in terms of our governing structure, how we govern, but also in terms of our economics, okay? In terms of our education development. And that is so key. Folks tend to not to focus on that. But St. Maarten's premier problem is our education. If we do not educate our youth, our next generation,
of the past,
how can you effectively do anything? Again, whether it comes to socially, economically, politically, you can't. Okay? We find ourselves, there's much talk today that several different things. Government need employees in certain areas. One that comes quickly to mind, the Department of Statistics. We're lacking so much in that we cannot basically come up with the necessary data to plot the way forward. How can you run an effective society, an effective island, without that information? I think you have the first.
Okay. Let's see if we can get this caller in. Yes, caller. Good morning.
Wendell?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. I was listening to your conversation right there in and out and the kitchen and so on with the machines making noise. So I noticed that I didn't hear you all talk about Belvedere plantation.
Oh, yeah.
That's a plantation. I was living on that plantation for a little while, and Bishop Hill is the hill there. In that area is a burial ground. It's a sacred place. I used to be scared to pass that place at a certain time.
Yeah.
You understand? But they should explore Belvedere plantation. I do not know what is the real name of it. All I know is saying Belvedere.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
I'm glad that caller called.
Yeah,
and yes, Belvedere.
Please explore it, find out what was the original name, and preserve it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, madam. Belvedere is also part of our one of the sites that we're going to be visiting. And what I would like you to do, I would definitely like to have a conversation with you. And you see, things like this. You see, the lady, she's part of that. Okay, and it's important that she be part of this dialogue.
Okay,
so I would like for her probably to get in touch with you, and then we can share some information. So then, because this is all about us educating each other.
Yeah.
Well,
she has much to offer.
Know my name very well. He can get in contact. Just tell him the wife of Bates in Cahill.
Okay. Yeah, don't give your public information on air like that. But you know Wendell, you can touch on base with Wendell. I know who she is. Okay, yes. Touch on Wendell, and then Wendell will let me know, and then definitely, Madam, we would like to have a conversation with you.
Okay,
and I want you to be part of that dialogue. And you see, once it's completed, at the ending part, and this dialogue is scheduled for sometime early in August. I want us to sit to the table, wherever we're going to have the thing, and let us have that dialogue. Because unless we have that dialogue, discuss it, go through it, then we can move forward. I think we have another call.
Okay. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. I get cut off just now. Second Garden was also a plantation and Low Princess Quarter. Yeah, they all was plantations. And there are many more plantations here in St.Maarten, but I cannot remember all of them off my head at the moment.
Okay.
And it was a good conversation you all have. Mr. Romney, how are you?
Say it again?
Yeah.
He's hailing you up. He's saying, how are you doing?
Okay, that's my 2 cents. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
He is recognizing that in Sucker Garden, and I'm wondering if he's speaking of the one next to the cement plant, somewhere in that
I
area.
think that would be the remnants of the salt industry.
Okay, the remnants of it.
Of the salt
what
industry.
remains.
Yeah.
But there
salt
were so many
factories.
areas that are identified as plantations. I don't know if they
We have a listing of them.
You have a listing?
Yeah, you have a listing. Of
Okay.
them. Yeah, and like I say, if anyone knows of them, if probably they think and they feel passionate about a particular plantation, then yeah, let us know.
I can't remember the number, Mr. Romney, but I've heard a number of the amount of plantations that was on St.Maarten, and it's quite some.
Yeah, we have hundreds of plantations in St.Maarten. However, they all were small plantations. Okay? And slavery on St.Maarten, the enslavement was more of a status thing. So there was not that much of an export. It was more a status, a person to show that you were wealthy to do what have you. You had slaves, and you had the plantation.
These were Dutch slave masters, though.
Yeah. Okay.
And
But
their pride was that they are in possession of slaves.
Of slaves. So it was a status
these
thing.
plantations.
Yeah. As opposed to some of the other islands in the Caribbean where there were great, big, large plantations, etc., etc. Our contribution, okay, to the kingdom's wealth, so to speak, basically came from the salt industry, for the most part.
Yeah.
The salt industry. We had a small sugar cane and all that, but they were rather small. But the salt, that was significant.
Okay. I guess the interest, to trigger the interest in such a project would be... Okay. Do we have another call? Let's take it then quickly before we wrap it up. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, also Bethlehem was a plantation also.
Yeah,
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Bye. So you got quite some of course have already been on your list, and now you're hearing of some more. I had no idea that Emilio Wilson's plantation, what do we refer to? Emilio Wilson Estate was Golden Rock. When I think of Golden Rock, I think of St. Eustatius. No, serious.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I had no idea that was labeled as Golden Rock plantation.
Yeah,
So when you mentioned that a moment ago in our conversation, I was like trying to figure out, okay, not disputing what you're saying, but where is that until you mention that it's Emilio Wilson Estate.
And like I said, and here you can see clearly the dialogue has started. We have these gentlemen calling, and I would encourage them to call, because that's what this project is all about, awareness.
So
and I can see there is some
would
interest.
where would this follow-up dialogue takes place?
Well, we haven't identified a location as yet.
Okay.
But more than likely, it could be at the Bel Air Community Center, and it could be, but it will be here in St.Maarten.
And down the road, not right now.
Yeah. Like I
Okay.
said, we're doing the desk research now. We're getting the students involved so they could, be part of that conversation. Because I said we have to look at our youth so they can get the message out forward. But the key thing is for what? The community, everyone on St. Maarten. And we see we just sit here for a couple hours. We had what 3-4 persons calling, showing their interest. So again, there is interest. People they want to share that information with you. And said ultimately that we would then publish this information. So we'll have a manuscript, a book that talks about St. Martin's experience. And I would encourage anyone out there that wants to contribute. I could give them.
Is that book would find its way into our lessons, maybe for
that's our hope. That's our hope. As you know, I've published a book, St.Maarten, our constitutional state, constitutional, and all about providing the literature, providing the data, about us, so we can teach our own, because no one's going to do it for us.
Yeah.
No one is going to do it for us. We have to do it.
I hear
And
you.
that is the premises of St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Study. This institution, St.Maarten, to help out. Let me quickly give you the phone number that anyone out there wants to contribute, want to be part of that dialogue from now, and then we'll be part of the greater dialogue, the public dialogue, come August. And that number would be, that's the SIPS number, 721-526-1061. Again, 721, area code, number 526-1061.
SIPS number.
Yeah, so they can contact me there. Or if they want to send us a email, they could send it to SIPS Foundation.
SIPPS.
Yep, Foundation. At gmail.com.
Okay, there you have it, folks. If you want to get in touch.
And I must mention this also too, that this whole project, is supported by the Slavery Memorial Committee.
Slavery Memorial Committee. All right. Okay, folks, a little bit of history about St.Maarten and the fact that we did have some plantations. We did have a number of plantations on the island. They're still here. They may be reformed now to other things. But it's important for us to be of that awareness that they existed, because it does form part of our history that will help us to shape the way forward for our country. That's going to be it. Thank you, Mr. Romney. I appreciate the time.
It's always a pleasure coming back.
Okay. And we are going to end it there. Thank you so very much for the early part of your Sunday morning. We'll be back again next Sunday with an interesting discussion with hopefully a politician from the French part of the island. But until then, you just take care of yourselves, and thank you so much for listening and for supporting this program. It all is in the interest of all learning, information, and development. You take care of yourself. See you next time.